We want to thank everyone for joining us. My name is Mark Vermillion. Behind the camera over there is Mike Ross, and here with me now is the 2016 Executive in Residence for the Department of Sport Management here at Wichita State University, Mr. Mike McCoy. And just real briefly, before we start tapping into some of Mr. McCoy's expertise and answering some questions and things like that, just a little bit of history and philosophy in terms of what the Executive in Residence is. Here at Wichita State University, what we decided to do is we wanted to tap into the practitioner expertise and the knowledge and the experience that these folks have had. And so what we have here is an opportunity for faculty, staff, and students to bring someone who's been in the industry for a very long time, bring them into the fold, and essentially share some of the stories, some of their experiences, both personal and professional, with the students, the faculty, and staff as a way of further developing individuals professionally. As I said before, Mike McCoy, he is actually the Business Development Director for the Indoor Football League, and I appreciate you taking some time, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
First off, if you could just kind of tell the folks out there a little bit about who you are and some of the professional experiences that you've had going back. If you want to think of it almost like a virtual resume, if you just kind of tell your story from as far back as you'd like to all the way up till now. Just give them a sense of who you are.
Well, that's a big question, Mark.
Yeah.
Actually, and I have been thinking about that question because I knew that you were going to ask me that question. So as far back as I'd like to go, I guess, would be, well, the only reason I went out for football in high school was because I didn't want to do yard work at home because
That's fair.
My mother was somebody that made you work around the house around the clock, and the only way I could get out of that was to go out for sports. And so I decided to go out for the high school football team and to get out of yard work. And I don't know if that's a proper beginning or not, or the most appropriate thing to say, but basically I got into it from that standpoint and fell in love with it, fell in love with the game, fell in love with the teamwork, the friendships, the hard work, you know, there's just so many skills that you learn from that. And then I got a college football scholarship to go play in college, and just absolutely had a great time there as well. Met so many more people. It's just amazing the longer that you stay in the business, no matter what level you're at or what you're doing. The networking and the marketing is just incredibly awesome. But and then when I finished my playing days, I started coaching, and I did not become I became a head coach immediately at the high school level, just right after playing, which I was hoping I could get into a situation where I could learn a little bit and kind of take my time and learn as much as I could. But there was a situation that came up to where I could be a head coach at a smaller school immediately. So I decided to do that and jump in right away. And I still did not know why they wanted to hire me with no experience. And I thought I was a little crazy too to take the job with no experience. But anyway, so I started out that way. I was not an assistant coach initially, and learned as much as I could as quickly as I possibly could. And you just study. You ask questions. You do everything that you know that you need to do to make sure that your players have the best chance to be successful. And I didn't want my players to learn at my to me to learn at their expense. So I doubled my efforts to make sure that I learned as much as I could, as quickly as I possibly could. So I think that really helped, and I coached for 20-something years. And then when I became a GM for an indoor professional arena football team, I became a GM, and first off, I was not an assistant GM or anything. I just had the opportunity to step into the top position. And once again, I didn't know why they wanted to hire me to be the GM without any experience. Okay. And I didn't know why I wanted to take the position because I had no experience. So, and I can remember taking that GM job, it was like the week before Christmas, and our first game was like March 1st. So I had 65 days to put together a team, and I didn't know what the pieces were. I didn't know what I was doing, but so consequently I had to jump in and immerse myself, which is how I started coaching, which is how my dad taught me how to swim. I mean, he threw me in the pool. I didn't go through water babies and floaties and whatever, all that other garbage. I mean, it's not garbage, but all the other things that you do to prepare your children to swim, he threw me in. So basically, that's what happened to me in coaching and in the GM industry, the GM part of the business. So I think because of those experiences, I really had to develop the passion, had to have the passion and the understanding that it was going to be a 24-hour-a-day job to make sure that because I didn't want to be behind or have my team suffer because of my lack of experience or knowledge. So I had to double and triple my efforts to make sure that that did not happen. And I've been a GM now in the league for 17 years, and I try to learn as much as I can. I mean, to get as much out of every year and to make the next year better in every one of those situations, because I still kind of feel that panic from sitting behind the desk the first day and not knowing where the operations manual was, and not having a coach, not having a team name, not having anything, but just getting started right away. So I learned from that, and then of course I coached at the high school level 2 and the college level for 25 years prior. So I've been in football since my mom made me do yard work.
Okay.
So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, you get a long line of experience that you can draw from.
Yep.
For those that maybe aren't real familiar with indoor football in general, if you could just talk a little bit about the IFL and kind of discuss, who you are as a league and those types of things.
The Indoor Football League is a league that resulted from a combination of leagues about 7 years ago. We had teams in our league from Alaska all the way down to Texas, all the way out to Phoenix and Vegas, and as far east as Memphis. So basically when the Intense League merged with the United League, it developed into the Indoor Football League, and there was 26 teams in the league at that time that were all across the country, and there were teams that basically all got thrown together that really shouldn't even have been teams. I mean, because I can remember in the early days when we would go play at some of those teams, there was hardly anybody there. They didn't really know what they were doing, basically. So we have done everything that we can do to make our league as strong as we can possibly make it. And we are now down to 12 teams, which is a very strong, solid 12 teams. So we've managed to weed out a lot of the teams that should not have been there in the first place. So and we have 12 markets now, all the way from Spokane, Washington, to Green Bay, Wisconsin, down to Dallas, Texas. So, and it's my job to make sure that each one of those teams are profitable. So basically, in my position, I travel around a lot to each one of these markets to make sure that they're not doing anything wrong financially. They're not buying anything that they shouldn't be buying, that they're just focusing their efforts on being financially solvent, basically. So we work with group sales, we work with sponsorship sales, etc. So I'm kind of like the Burger King guy now, which is what they all call me, because when I show up, if you buy a Burger King franchise, they send out Burger King people to show you how to build your Burger King restaurant, because they want to like all the other successful Burger Kings. So basically, when I walk into these buildings now, I usually take a couple of hamburgers with me, because I know that will come up in the discussion. But it's my job now to make sure that they are successful and that they are doing the right things. And then expansion, I'm in charge of that as well, and to where I go and visit with all these different markets about what it takes to put an indoor professional arena franchise in their respective markets. So I've got about 10 items that I look for when I fly into Bismarck, North Dakota, which is where I was 2 weeks ago, because they want to put a team in there. And so I flew in and met with the ownership group that would like to do it, and I met with the arena people and looked around the town and kind of did my homework, to see if that would be a great market. And so basically, the league sends me out to look at these markets, and I come back and I make a report to the expansion committee and say, I think it looks good, I don't think it looks good, and here's why. And so then basically, if we accept that team, then it's my job to basically make sure that they start off on a very successful pattern too. So I do a lot of traveling to different places to make sure that people are operating as efficiently as possible. And if they ever need anything, then they always can call me too. And so I'll go down to Texas and spend a week down there, going through their books with them to make sure that they're doing things too. So I kind of do like a mid-season check to make sure that things are going as they should, because we've all set goals for each one of these teams, and so by mid-season they should be at the midpoint of those goals, and as far as the sales and the revenues and all that too. So it's just my job now on a national level to make sure that these teams are all making money, and that the players are happy, the players are being well treated, and to make sure that I give them the benefit of everything that I've been through, knowing that hopefully they didn't get thrown in the pool like I did, or have to start off as a GM like I did.
Okay. Again, we're here with Mike McCoy, 2016 Executive in Residence here in the Department of Sport Management, Wichita State University. And for those of you that are watching or listening, feel free, you can either directly message us through Periscope, and you can ask questions of Mike. You can also tweet at us at Wichita State Sport Management, at WSU Sport MGMT. And as we get those questions coming through, then Mike's been gracious enough to agree to answer some questions from students or other individuals out there who just simply have questions about the world of professional sports. In the meantime, we've got a few questions here that actually, I prepared a few questions as well, but
Sure.
One of our GAs in the department, so nice little shout out to Adam Davies for coming up. He had some questions. He wasn't going to be able to be here,
Okay.
and that's kind of what Adam does. He jumps in on something and he gets some
That's
ideas.
awesome. Yeah.
And so he had some interesting ideas. Like, you've served also as a consultant as well. And so if you could just talk about some of the positive and negative experiences you've had as a consultant before in the industry.
And that's really kind of a tough thing to do, because when people hire you to come in and look at their team, look at their program, whether it be a hockey team, a baseball team, a basketball team, or whatever, they're flying you into their place of business and asking you to look at everything from top to bottom. And basically, what I do before I do that is I usually call and talk to the people that are in the office and say, I'll be there on Monday. Here's what I want for you to have ready for me. I want to know the list of everything that expenses and revenues, and what you're doing for media, your plan for this and that or whatever, so that when I get in there, then I can jump in and see. And it's my job to not only look at everything and not be really critical, but do everything that I can do to make sure that we clean up each one of those problem areas. And in my background, it's like, you think sometimes that there's just nothing else you haven't seen, or nothing else that has not been presented to you that you can't handle, but that's not true, because there's always something out there that's crazy. But I just try to catch them being good, which is what I call it. And when I make a compliance visit, when I go in to visit a team and make sure that they're doing everything correctly with their players, and they're housing players well, and they're not paying them too much, and they're following the league rules and whatever, I call them before, and I'll say, this is why I'm coming in, and this is what I want from you. So when I get there, then they're prepared, I am too, and it just turns into a process to where I'm trying to be their friend, to help them through a tough and difficult time. And I'm not there to get anybody fired. I'm not there to be overly critical, but I am there to make them better. And I want them to be better. And so when they're paying me what they pay me to come in and do this, I just want to make sure that they can reap the benefits of that, and by increased sales and selling more tickets and sponsorships and increasing attendance and stuff too, because those are the core items. And we do so many things now with group sales that I can talk to them about, as far as selling groups and increasing their attendance, because once your buildings are full, then the sponsors come to your games, and they see that there's a lot of people that are looking at their sponsorships, and they're hearing their name all the time, so they're happy. So because you want to resell those about mid-season anyway for the following season, so it's always best to make sure that they're happy. We talked about customer service a lot, and going back into the businesses and making sure that they're happy, taking them some extra tickets to your athletic event, and just, so to get back to the answer, Mark, to your question, is I just want to catch them being good, and hopefully if they're spending money on things they shouldn't be spending money on, then I need to alert them of that too, because I know what's worked in other markets and what hasn't. And I can give you examples of those things too, but bottom line is just rolling up your hands and your sleeves, and making sure that that they know too that from the time that I leave there, that we have a better plan in place for them, and that I usually set up conference calls with them after I'm gone, like once every week, to where they can get their office staff together. They call me on a speakerphone, and then I just start asking questions about what they've gotten done, because I give each one of them responsibilities too, and different jobs to do, and so they can increase their effectiveness as well. So hopefully it's time well spent for them and for us as well.
Okay. Obviously, you talk a lot about you're talking about rolling up your sleeves and kind of digging in, and so work ethic obviously is one of those values or qualities that's going to be important. What are some other qualities that you might look for in a student intern or someone who's just breaking into the business of professional sports?
I am looking for somebody that has the same passion. And it's just a fun thing to say that yes, I would like to work in sports. Yes, I want to be at the Final Four. I want to be there when Villanova sinks the last second shot. Yeah. After North Carolina made a shot 10 seconds before that from a double pump, a 3-pointer. But that's all the fun part of the game. I mean, it's getting behind the scenes and being able to learn and being receptive to responsibilities, because I don't think people really know yet what they want to do in all these different sports fields until they have a chance to get in with a team and try everything, because you never know really what your little perk is going to be, so I'm looking for those that have the time and want to put forth the effort and have that passion and that really are eager to learn and listen. And because there's so many people who want to get in, and then once they get in, then there's very few that really make it, but the ones that do make it are just incredible people, because they have all of those qualities. And kind of like when your dad throws you in the swimming pool, are you going to sink or swim? And so I got thrown in the pool, I'm not going to throw them in the pool, but I'm looking for the characteristics that it would take to swim out of the pool and not drown. Because I don't want them to drown. I want each one of them to be very, very successful.
Okay. You also, and I think this is a very kind of important question, because it comes from students and maybe some of the things that they're thinking about now is we talk about the sports industry, very time and labor intensive. So if you could just talk a little bit about how do you balance the professional and the personal life? How do you develop that balance and that satisfaction?
Well, as my kids always knew, when it's the season, Dad's usually not around. When Dad is around, Dad's usually watching film. He's on the phone. He's studying or whatever. So that's really a tough thing, because your whole livelihood depends upon your time and effort and your passion and your impression management skills, basically too. But the thing that always helped me was I included my family in everything. I took my kids to practices. I took them to games. I took them with me on sales calls. I did everything that I could do to involve my family in this whole process, because it was such a healthy environment for them. I mean, I didn't want them home playing video games. I wanted them there with me at practice, or talking to players, or watching how the TV cameras would come in and talk to players, or doing everything that they could do to be in that athletic, healthy environment. And that really helped a lot. Involving them a lot.
Wonderful. Again, 2016 Executive in Residence Mike McCoy, Business Director, or Director of Business Development, for the Indoor Football League. Feel free to tweet in your questions or message us directly through Periscope. And as those questions come across, we'll ask Mike kind of his opinion on whatever topic it is that you have that you'd like, whether it's getting started in the industry, certain values or qualities that maybe you can kind of start to develop or hone in on with your resume, whatever it is. So feel free to send those questions along. One of the things that's kind of interesting is that you've been in the industry for a very long time. You're very accomplished. And you've also taught university and college classes for quite some time now. So if you could talk about, we know networking is very important, and our industry and discipline's really built upon going out and getting that practical experience. So if you could talk a little bit about how the practical experience sort of can be combined with the in-class experience, since you have experience doing both?
Okay, good. It's just amazing how many people that are in your classes are people that you will be seeing later on. You know, the person that's sitting next to you might be working with the baseball team and you're working with the football. I mean, there's just, because you all have the same interest. And meeting as many of those people as you possibly can, doing social things with them after class, working on different projects with them, getting to know them, I think is so crucial. Because when you go out and volunteer your time, which I think is huge too with networking, is to go to do an internship with the hockey team or with the baseball team or with the foot, do as many internships as you possibly can, meet as many people as you possibly can, help out one team one week, and then you're maybe running game day with another team the next week. Just put yourself in a situation to where you're always obtaining knowledge and you're always meeting people. And when you meet people, I mean, I would always get business cards, and just hang on to them.
Yeah.
Because those people come and go too. But when they come and go, they usually go to another team that's in the same, whatever. So, but they're, and it's kind of funny because, Chris Presson is a great example. He used to run the hockey team here. And I was friends with Chris 20 years ago when he ran the hockey team here. And then he called me up the other day. He's now the GM for the Arizona Rattlers in the AFL. So just by me networking with him and meeting with him, I mean, now they want to join our league. So he called me because he knew me from past experiences. So now we cut through all the red tape and all the baloney, and now it's just him and I talking as friends about how I can better help him and how he can better help us. So, I mean, meeting people, really taking an interest in what they're doing, and staying involved with them. Not just meeting them, but checking back in, sending them an email, sending them a text, just anything that you can do to maintain that contact with them. And then if they're that impressed with you, which they should be, then when something comes up in their organization, then they'll think about, hey, I met that kid from Wichita State, great guy, great girl, whatever. I think I'm going to call them, and I've got their information right here. So just, put yourself out there and just do as much as you possibly can. And I know it's tough because we're all busy. And with students, you're going to class, you're working, you're trying to balance your family life too and everything. You're studying, you're in the library, you're trying to have a social life too. But bottom line is, you got to start preparing for what's next. And by as much networking as you can do now, meeting your classmates, going with them to do different things to help these young teams, and learning and meeting the gal that works at the front desk at the baseball office. There's just so many different examples of that, and each one of those contacts is extremely crucial.
One of the things you talked about, networking, just being involved. Do you have any advice for, I grew up in small towns, and so, we didn't have a hockey team, or if you're in towns that are maybe even smaller than 1,000 or 2,000 folks, what would be some advice on how people could get involved in very, very small communities? What would you say to someone who says that's a bit of a barrier?
Yeah, well, to be involved with the high school teams. If there is a junior college around close by or something, or just doing everything that you can do to meet as many of those people that are in your realm. Because then they become your network. And it's kind of funny too, because guys that I met as a high school football coach, back in 1984, are still coaching, and they're at other places, and they're doing different things, and they want to bring their groups to games and stuff as well too. So, but just there's people, no matter where you are, who can help you, who you can learn from. Whether it's the high school basketball coach, high school football coach, the assistant principal who used to, play for the Iowa State Cyclone. Everybody has a background, and everybody has contacts.
Okay, so it sounds like, again, that whole idea, we hear the word research, and a lot of people kind of freak out, but research is just asking questions essentially, and that sounds like you're researching, getting to know, and connecting with those people that are around you, and then as you become part of their world, then that's going to grow exponentially. You also talked about this idea of research in your current position with the IFL, and you go and you look at specific markets about whether it's suitable or not. If you could just talk a little bit about, you had like your 10 factors, and you don't need to tell us exactly what those are, but if you could,
Sure.
how would you evaluate the feasibility of a community being connected with some sort of professional sport franchise? What are some of the things that you all look for? Facility obviously is one, but what are some of the other things?
Well, the top thing is that you have to have an ownership group that gets it. And ownership groups usually can be one person, they can be a corporation, they can be 13 local owners, they can be, 5 people, too. But that ownership group has got to be very, very solid to where they have the financial punch to make this thing happen, and then they have the willingness to help you. When I went to Louisville, Kentucky once, they had 13 local owners. And I flew into Louisville, and I landed, and they picked me up at the airport, and they took me into this big room with a big, long table, and I sat at the end of the table, and 13 owners sat around the table. They were all there to greet me. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's 13 bosses here. How can I work for 13 people? Yeah. But bottom line is, they each stood up, and they each told me what they did, and they each told me how they thought that I should run their football team. And I let them all talk, and they all spoke and everything. And then after the 13th person got done, then I stood up and said, okay, look, you've hired me to run your football team, and I will run your football team. And I've got a lot more experience than any of you sitting at this table. And I need for you to help me sell sponsorships and season tickets and group tickets. If you can help me do that, then this thing will be a huge success. Because now I've got 13 built-in salespeople. But where I was going with that is that they each have to bring something to the table other than money. Okay, so I'm looking for an ownership group that will be hands-on, that can help you be successful. So, and then the size of the town too, I think is crucial. If it's, and no offense to Dodge City, Kansas, or Garden City, but if it's a town of 23,000 people way out in the middle of nowhere, it's going to be awful tough for them to support a team. Right. To have enough population to be able to have enough businesses to buy sponsorships, to buy season tickets, to have enough schools and churches and things to supply groups.
What's the ideal community size for what it is that you all do in the IFL?
Wichita is perfect.
Okay.
Wichita is perfect. We have a team in Spokane, which is about the size of Wichita, that does very, very well too. But we have teams in Sioux Falls that's about 150,000 people. We have a team in Grand Island, Nebraska that I just ran, for 5 years. That's got 48,254 people. So that was kind of on the very low side, and we had to fight and scratch for everything that we got there, which was fine. But then we had to expand our radius to about a 30-mile radius around the town to get every other little town that was close. So and then Wichita Falls, Texas has about 125,000 people. So anywhere from probably 100,000 people up is good. If it's in a bigger market, which is where the AFL has their teams in, like if you're going to be in Chicago or Tampa or New York City or et cetera, or then you share the spotlight with so many other teams, and there's so many people fighting for the entertainment dollar. So you're not really a big deal. And those owners in that league are losing large amounts of money because they're fighting with the Chicago Cubs, and they're fighting with different teams that which they shouldn't have to fight with, but they do. So, which is why mid-sized markets works for us, because we don't really have that type of competition to fight with. But on the other hand, you don't magically open your doors and people magically come in. Right. You have to go get them. So, and then I walk around the town too and talk to people, and just if they would like to have a professional sports team there, whether it be hockey, basketball, football, soccer, whatever. And you really kind of get feedback from the guy walking down the street. He doesn't know me and I don't know him, but I'm just going to stop and ask him if he thinks that a pro baseball team would work here. And I just really like get a lot of feedback from the guy that's there. And that arena lease has to be second to none, which is what I do too. Is I go to the buildings and help them, work on work on their lease too. There's got to be enough jobs in that community to where players can come in and work as well.
Yeah.
There's got to be places for them to practice. There's got to be places for them to live. But the main thing that counts to me is if that ownership group has the heart and the passion and the cash.
Well, yeah, it's professional
And
sports.
if they don't have those things, then yeah, because when you work in this industry, your owner is like your college president and your AD and your head of the school board, all in one person.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make sure that person is the right person as well.
Okay. You talked about passion.
Yes, sir.
Motivation.
Mm-hmm.
As an employer, and you have subordinates. How would you football season is long, but off season when you're involved in different types of sales and things like that's also long. How do you motivate interns? How do you keep them motivated maybe throughout the year, especially if you're in the off season, but you still have a lot of work that needs to be done?
Mm-hmm. Well, our big sales seasons for us are September forward, because our first games don't start until like March 1st or so.
Okay.
So we have to get everything sold hopefully by Christmas.
Oh, okay.
And that's when groups plan their functions for spring. So our off season is really our selling season. I mean, that is our big crucial time. And the thing here too that works is that I go on sales calls with these people. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I always learned is when you walk into a business, you try to have as much fun as you possibly can. Okay. And you try to have fun. And of course, you're out there selling when it's outdoor football season, right? When it's the NFL season. So you can walk in the door and talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and Alex Smith, or what are the Broncos going to do without Peyton Manning, and I mean, so you can start the conversation that way and then lead into the fact that you do have a professional sports team in town, and they do start playing in late February, early March, and I just want to teach those salespeople and interns to have as much fun as they can possibly have doing it, to be relaxed, to walk in there and hand out team posters, to hand out team schedules, etc. Don't just always go in there with your hand out because you're trying to sell something. So, but you want to make a friend in every place that you go to. Okay. So I try to teach them to make as many stops during the course of a day as possible, because if they can make 15 stops during each day, and that's 7 before lunch and maybe 8 after lunch or whatever, they're going to businesses and schools and places too, to where they're hitting so many different places that their chances are better of actually selling something. And I try to educate them as much as possible on what they are selling, and for them to have because they're not selling insurance, they're not selling aluminum siding or bricks or anything like that. They're selling sports and fun and something that it's great to bring the family to, etc. So I want them to sell fun, and so they need to have fun while they're in there selling fun. And their dress should be very professional, not suit and tie. The whole first year that I was in this industry, I wore suit and tie to work every day. And until my owner finally came into town, and he sat me down and he said, sports is a very relaxed industry. You should just wear, you're scaring people when you walk in there with a suit and tie. Wear a nice shirt, wear a nice, but don't wear a tuxedo, basically. So I try to impart those things, and then to teach them to have an interest in every business that they are approaching. Because if you can convince the business that you're going to help them make money, then they will spend money with you. So why should they buy a turf logo from you, or a dasher board, or season tickets, or whatever, unless it helps their business? So you have to research their business to find out what makes them tick. I mean, a car dealership wants to sell cars. That's pretty obvious. He wants to move iron. So how can you help him move iron? So then I try to get these kids and stuff to think that through before they walk in the door. Okay. Because it's just, it's something good for these folks to do, and it's good for the community and stuff too. But also, how does it make money for them? Okay. And because they're going to spend their money on things that will increase their business. So these kids have to think through that other, part of it as well.
Wonderful. We've got a little bit of time left. So if you have any last minute questions, feel free to, like I said, send those in. We'll try to get Mike to answer those as quickly as possible.
We've got one via Twitter. Mike, what do you think is the biggest challenge that lies ahead for the Indoor Football League and/or professional sports in general?
Okay. The biggest challenge is there's so many other things to do now. So you have to distinguish yourself. You have to make your product the best. And it's like chips and salsa. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's constant entertainment in the sports business from start to finish. So I want them to come to whatever sport that I'm selling, and I'm going to do everything that I can do to make that a better experience for them. So it's you have to, because they can either go to a hockey game or a football game or a baseball game or else, so they have to want to come to your football game. So why do they want to come to your football game? Because I'm going to make it as much fun as I possibly can for them. And I want to start the entertainment process for them immediately, okay? Which leads to more people buying tickets, because when they come to the game and have fun, then every one of those people is going to go home and tell 10 people, you know, that they had a great time. And we're scoring 60 points a game, and there's touchdowns, and we lose 60 footballs a game in the stands every game. You know, so 60 people get to keep a football. I mean, we're doing everything that we can do to make sure that they're as happy as possible. And that's how we have to do it. And we cannot rely on them to just come in and just have fun without us making sure that they are having fun. Because I want them to choose us time and time and time again. And we have to fill those seats. We've got to fill the seats. If there's 5,151 seats, we got to sell 5,000 tickets. Have to.
That seems important.
That's how we do it.
Going back to what you're talking about in terms of identifying the markets that you all as a league can be successful in. You know, when you have everyone sort of competing for that same entertainment dollar.
And our game is indoors, you know, which helps. You know, because you're not fighting the weather, you're not fighting the rain and cold and heat, you know, whatever too. It's not windy inside, it's 72 degrees. So, and we have a turf field, which is good too, because groups can come in and they can sing the national anthem on the field. They can be in the fan tunnel before the game on the field. You know, it's not ice, you know, where they can't really get out on the ice and slip and fall or whatever. So, so we think that we have advantages. Hopefully we do.
Good. Do we have any other Twitter questions? Okay. Well, then I've got one more thing.
Okay.
You'll be teaching a class for us this fall. It's based off of your experience. So if you could just kind of use this as a forum to plug. I know we're going through enrollment. We've already got 8 or 9 folks that are enrolled in the course. But if you could just tell everyone a little bit about what your class is going to be, and just talk about kind of. You're in sales, so sell your class.
Absolutely. This is a class that if you want to know how to run a professional sports team, then this class is for you. We're going to talk about all aspects of running a sports team from start to finish. Just like when I got thrown in the pool, just like when I was the GM the first day without really knowing, you know, we're going to start with we're going to talk about sales, we're going to talk about marketing, we're going to talk about hiring staff, we're going to talk about signing players, we're going to talk about trading players, waiving players, releasing players, cutting players. I mean, there's just so many aspects that that I think that people really don't know yet, and they won't know that yet until they've actually been on a team. So this is their chance to be on a team to where they can actually see what it's really like. And I'll bring a problem in class each day, you know, to where we can talk about this problem, because this is something that all teams face daily. You know, and the first problem, the first day is we're going to have a salesperson that will come in that looks like Donald Trump. Do you hire a salesperson that looks like Donald Trump? I mean, do you think he would be a good salesperson? You know, there's just little things like that happen every day that you just don't really realize. And I've had salespeople come in and talk to me, and they would be great salespeople, but he looks like Donald Trump. You know, so should I not hire him because he looks like Donald Trump? Or if we have a female who wants to come out and play and wants to try out for the team, and she's really not a bad kicker, but should I sign her? Would that sell more tickets? Would that? I mean, there's so many different things there, but and it's the good stuff and the bad stuff and the ugly stuff, and there's just so much to talk about. I mean, and I've got guest speakers coming in from the baseball team here and from the hockey teams and from the soccer teams and whatever too, to tell you what it's like for them to run their indoor professional sports as well. So it's not only me telling you from start to finish how things work, but it's other folks too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'll make it as much fun as I possibly can, I promise.
Have no doubt. Well, first, again, we want to thank you. I don't know sometimes if students really know the amount of effort that it takes on someone like you to donate your time, to do the lunch and learn, to speak at classes for us, to take time out of your day to come to campus and even do something as simple as this. So we want to thank you very much again for doing that.
Thank you.
And for those, if there are any students out there that are watching, make sure you stop by the department and pick up your SIMSA shirts if you're part of the student association. Also, it's advising and enrollment time. So if you're a graduate student, you need to get in to see your advisor, which is the full-time faculty here in the Department of Sport Management. And if you're an undergraduate, then you need to get in to speak with Kayla and make sure that you're getting not only enrolled, but that you have a plan as to how and why you're enrolling in the courses that you are. But once again, we want to thank Mike McCoy, the Director of Business Development for the Indoor Football League and the 2016 Executive in Residence here at Wichita State in the Department of Sport Management.